that for you. Before we get started, let's introduce everyone on this meeting. I'm Sandy Brock. When I call your name, please confirm you can hear me by verifying that you're present. So starting with the commissioners, Alicia.
I am here.
Jonathan.
Here.
Patrick.
Here.
And I'll go with staff, our conservation agent, Leah.
I'm here.
Okay. The open meeting of the Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely via Zoom pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order as extended on June 15th, 2021, with the governor's signing of the Senate Bill number 2475, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Access information for the public has been provided on the town website. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. If you're using a dial-in by telephone feature, you can mute yourself by pressing *6. As chair, I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. And please note that you will not have screen sharing privileges, but staff can display any visuals per your cue. After speakers conclude their remarks, I will invite each commissioner by name to provide any comments, questions, or motions. After the commissioners have spoken, I will allow public comments to be spoken by participants. Participants must raise hand feature by clicking the hand icon at the bottom right of the Zoom menu bar to indicate they would like to speak. If you're using a dial-in by telephone feature, please press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute when you are called on. Participants who raise their hand will be recognized one at a time by their name and then will be promoted to speak. Public comments will be followed by commission and applicant responses. Finally, each vote taken will be conducted by a roll call vote. As a reminder, the commission is concerned with state and town wetland and stormwater regulations. Concerns outside of this purview need to be addressed to appropriate boards. For example, road conditions must be addressed with the select board and traffic concerns must be addressed with the planning board. Done.
Thank you. All right. So if you want to just go down the list, first we have the January 4 meeting minutes.
All right. Does anyone have any comments, questions, or changes? I will do a quick roll call. Patrick.
No comments.
Alicia.
No comments.
Jonathan.
No comments.
And I also have no comments. Next one, what's the sign Pell Farm BDR?
We need a motion.
I make a motion to accept the January 4th meeting minutes.
Oh, very good. Thank you, Jonathan. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I will do a roll call vote and I will start with the hero, Jonathan.
I'm no hero. I'm an ordinary man. Yes.
Alicia.
Yes.
And Patrick.
Yes.
I am also a yes. The motion carries. All right, Leah.
Okay. The Pell Farm BDR is the baseline documentation report for Pell Farm.
Yep.
You guys might remember a meeting or two ago, we've been working between us and the land trust to make sure that all the documents associated with any properties we have that have conservation restrictions on them have been squared away. So we took care of a few of the more recent acquisitions at a meeting not too many weeks ago. But then circling back to the land trust, they pointed out that the baseline documentation report for Pell Farm, which was actually from at least 5 years ago, was voted to be accepted, but it was never signed. So I just wanted to call to you guys' attention. I think it only needs the signature of the chair, but it will be in the packet after this meeting.
Okay.
We did find in the minutes from before that it was discussed and it was reviewed. So you can take another vote to approve now if you'd like. Otherwise, it'll just need the signature.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think does anyone feel like they need to go through a vote on this? It was previously approved. Yeah, so we're just cleaning up stuff. So yeah, I'm happy to sign that.
Okay. Then it is, because it's January, it's time to do our contribution for the town's annual report. So I can share my screen and pull that up for you guys. I made a draft, wanted to know if you had any comments. Some of it is standard stuff we have in there each year, like what we're in charge of. Everybody's name gets put in there. The committees or subcommittees that we have representatives on. We have a paragraph that totals the amount, basically the amount of permits we dealt with that year, also COCs. Talk about open space, what we accomplished in 2021. With the open space, I listed the new parcels that we acquired, as well as the barn demolition project. I talked about that.
Okay.
And it being the first year that we did the mowing through DPW in-house.
So would it be a way to show appreciation to the DPW for mowing?
Yeah, I do have them in there.
Yeah, okay. Okay. I just want to, recognize that I don't know a lot of town DPWs would do this, so I think it's kind of cool. So
Okay. I threw in a little bit about 95 North Street, which will be something we'll be discussing shortly. We also have that we conduct inspections, we consult with other departments and boards. We help out with the town's MS4 permit. A paragraph about the current round of the Green Communities grant that we're in. We got $200,000 for some projects, mostly at the middle school, weatherization and a new energy management system, as well as the police chief bought 2 hybrid cruisers. You might already see them driving around. And he's going to be retrofitting 3 other cruisers with idle reduction technology. And then this last section is just something all departments are required to put in there, which is anything we spent money on in excess of $1,000.
gotcha. Leah, so the green technology grant and so forth, how much do we go after grants?
Me personally, I've done 3 rounds of green communities, currently working with the town planner, and we're going after the MVP grant. Hopefully hopefully to treat, our idea is to treat aquatic invasives, Fisherville Pond. I don't know if you guys recall, we had a gentleman call that one to our attention for chestnuts a couple of years ago. It's so bad, it looks like you could walk on it.
Yeah, there's a few ponds like that around.
Yeah, so our idea is for treatment there, as well as Lake Ripple. Lake Ripple's not nearly as bad, but it does need, in the words of the consultant that has checked out these water bodies with me, he says Lake Ripple really just needs a hard reset. And then that one should be easy to manage, versus Fisherville Pond is going to be years of working on those chestnuts.
Yeah. And the reason why I ask is that with the infrastructure bill being passed on the federal level and the state's getting over $1 billion, and they've had a couple of recent presentations through different organizations about towns and what grants they could get. And I'm just wondering if Grafton has been following any of that. If not, let me know and I can probably get like a link to one of them or something.
Okay. I mean, send me what you have. The town administrator's office has been talking about the round that they're currently focusing on is the ARPA funds. But in terms of the infrastructure bill, there has been talk of that money coming our way. I don't know too much detail about it at my level just yet, but I'm happy to look at whatever you have to send over.
it's not that I have a ton of information. It's just that there's other folks in the company following it and trying to figure out where it's, how they're going to distribute the money.
Okay,
So there's a lot of opportunities, and there's going to be a lot of grants through that come from that money. And it's,
yep,
but yeah, I guess there's been a couple of presentations that really do a good job of outlining all the different grants for towns. And it's not just around conservation, but yeah, it's just checking in on that. I'll find out a link. I'll
Okay.
try to grab a link and see if I can get it to you so that you can share it.
sure. Does anyone have any comments, questions, suggested edits for the annual report?
I'm good.
I do not. It looks good from what I see.
I think we do usually do a vote, just to make the submission officially blessed by you guys.
Sounds good. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the report for the annual town report.
Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion, a second, roll call vote. Patrick,
Yes.
Alicia,
Yes.
and Jonathan.
Yes.
And
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm also a yes, the motion carries. Sorry, I was distracted.
You're enjoying too much freedom without the public hearings.
True.
Too giddy.
The
Yeah.
pressure's off tonight. See, this is the night that Elisa should have volunteered for.
No, because somehow if I volunteered for it, there'd have been like 6 people that wanted to show up and talk about something, and it would have taken 4 hours.
All right. Next up,
All right, we have the RFP for 95 North Street. So 95 North Street is the Ingval property, the property that the family donated in honor of their late mother. Used to be Christmas tree farm, orchard. They have carved off their 4 frontage lots, as well as the lot that the existing farmhouse is on. We are now in ownership of the remaining open space. So I have been working with Jen Anderson, the recreation director. We acquired money from CPC to go out to bid for a landscape architect to help us design a passive recreation park there. So I'll pull up the draft RFP we've been working on. And I wanted you guys to chime in on the scope of services so we can make sure we think we're capturing things appropriately.
Was
Now,
that the
this
money
was the
that,
one where the family wanted to do like a community garden also, correct?
Yeah, they had some ideas, community gardens. I don't know if it was originally theirs or recreations, but things like a picnic area, maybe a
Yeah.
pavilion, things like that. Yeah.
was this the money that was released from in the town meeting? Or is
Yes.
this a different? Yeah.
so
Yes.
what's the that amount?
From
And what's it-
CPC,
Yep.
47,000. We, the commission decided to kick in 1,500, so did recreation. So it's a total of 50,000.
Okay. Which is more than enough for this.
50,000 to do all the work and the study, or just to do the, are we requesting an RFP for the landscape architect services or for the construction as well of this?
This is just phase 1. This is the landscape architect services.
And the way
Okay.
the RFP is written, it's only through SDs. It's through concept. So you
Okay.
get a cost estimate. So,
So it would be for actual design of the site or
Yep. so
concept
it's
of
through,
it?
so it's through schematic design. And so schematic design sets the scope of the project, which then can be your first cost estimate on it. And then there's the phase 2 is design development through construction administration.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's the design plans. And then that would not be approved until it goes through town meeting and stuff.
Yeah, there was a lot of confusion at the last town meeting, and so that's caused confusion for me too.
So I've gone through this and again, it's almost like a lot of the verbiage and a lot of the language is not typical for an RFP. So, let me see. I'm trying to pick out some different things. So the biggest thing is like, I'll just start the top, which says the following is a summary of the anticipated services associated with the project. No. And so you don't want to have any wiggle words, meaning like anticipated services. Now, the following is a summary of services, period. I spend my career taking words out of things to simplify them and make them clearer. So it's, you're telling them what to do. So there's no may, should, those things. You shall do this, those type of things. I don't know. Can I share? Oh, that's not doable, right?
It might let you, because you're a panelist. Why don't you give it a try?
Okay, let me see if this works. Host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, hold on.
Ah, cool. All right, so you can see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so I just wanted to give you some like things to kind of think about. And it's more just writing in RFP or contract terms. That's all it is. I'm sure Jonathan has a whole bunch when it comes to the way they write certain things or how they respond to certain things. So it's like, seeking a professional landscape architect. Services for passive recreation, cool, whatever. And again, it's professional, and because that's a certified, that's your license through the state. I had a question on what you meant by shall work with equipment vendors.
That could have been left over because, like I said, we worked off of the super park draft. So that could have just gotten left in there by accident, talking about like playground equipment.
Right. And again, to me, if you hire in LA and they're only going through SD, but even when they go through full construction documents, they'll spec what it is, and they have to follow, if this is going to be procured through the public process that a town has to do, you have to actually, you can't do specific brands and so forth or specific vendors. You have to have 3 manufacturers. So if you're going to do a picnic table, you have to have 3 options for the bidding law. And that was one of my other questions. How, I know that's not in this, but you need to think about how you're going to bid this project. And if you're going to, and I don't know the regulations because this isn't a huge project. So I don't know what the threshold is when you have to follow certain laws, bidding laws for the town.
Yep.
So that's kind of one thing. So, and then it's just like, this is just, all this is doing is making it more succinct. Proposal shall include 2 phases. Phase 1 is this, phase 2 is this, just that type of writing. And I'm happy, Leah, to share this with you, but I might try to find like a RFP language so that you can describe it. So people will kind of like when you see a lot of RFPs, there's a lot of similarities. It's like they all go to the same attorneys. And so you get the kind of same language. And then your evaluation of, so it's, technical competence. Typically you say qualifications. And then you can specify. I would also throw in there references. And, you had in there, being able to have capacity. That's absolutely fine. preference would be given those who's with experience in passive recreation, all good. Again, it's me just cleaning up that. Yeah, and when you said firms responding to this request should be of adequate size and sufficient staff to perform the assigned described above. You can request, I mean, what's your threshold? Could someone who's got a 3-person firm do this? My guess is yes. So I don't know if you were thinking that they need to be what size. A lot of landscape architect firms are fairly small.
Okay.
And that's kind of, those are just like terminologies and so forth. My bigger questions had to do with, so is this a qualification-based RFP or a cost-based RFP or some sort of mix? You just want to be really clear because, you've got this, so submit a stipulated in the RFP, clearly marked sealed envelope. A lot of times you have 2 envelopes, one with the price and one with the qualifications. And I don't know if you're
Okay.
doing qualifications based or not. So there's not a right or wrong answer, to be quite honest. It's
So
just,
can I interrupt you for a
Sure.
second? So when you're posing questions like what size firm are we shooting for and is it 2 envelopes or is it 1? Is that up to Jen and I to answer those questions? We've never been through this process before, so.
not a problem. I'm happy to help, or anyone else, on the commission can help with that. And I'm sure there's other people in the town that can help with that. So
Okay.
it's a difference between like doing a qualification base, meaning you get all the qualifications and you negotiate fee afterwards. So if you get, as an example, you get 10 submittals for the RFP, and you have the top 3 that you've ranked, and you've got the top 3 there. You go to the number 1 and you say, hey, Alicia, you got a great firm, really like it. Give us your cost estimate, or you negotiate, say you gave us a cost of $200,000. Guess what? That's way too much. But you want to do it qualifications, so you don't look at those fees until you've gone and done your ranking of the qualifications. And then you go to the fee to see where it is, and then you negotiate. And Alicia goes, no, I'm worth 200,000. So no, I'm not going to change it. And you say, thank you very much. You go to number 2, and number 2 is $30,000, but their qualifications all still good. I mean, I'm using extreme cases, extreme examples on purpose. And then you negotiate with them and make sure everyone's on the same page with the scope. So that's qualification based. It's also absolutely fine to do fee based too. Like where you said, preference will be given to, a consultant that has experience in passive recreation. You can also say, you can also give them, a lot of times, like on the state level, they'll give you a score sheet, 30% is experience, 30% is, whatever, schedule, or 30% is fee. So it could be qualifications. You could do there is not a right or wrong answer. But if you give that information to the consultant, they know how to do their proposal. So the whole idea of doing the RFP is to get apples to apples, because the hardest thing to do is if the scope isn't clear, then you may get, really wide range of costs. So you try to have a tight scope so that you get similar type of responses to your RFP proposals. So
Yeah, Sandy, I was going to say that I normally see, when I see RFPs where we're submitting as a general contractor or construction manager for a project, they'll give us the score sheet and they'll weight it, and they'll say, so obviously, price is critical to most of these things, but we've done a lot of RFPs, especially in Washington and Virginia, that they weight the technical way heavier. So the price is not necessarily, as long as it falls within their budget, it's fine, but they'll put 70% weight on the technical and the team as opposed to the price. So one of the things, Leah, you could look at, and again, I can lend I see a lot of these, not for the design services, but for the construction. So they're somewhat similar. Sandy probably sees more for the design, but
Yep.
or both, I guess. But I can help lend a hand as well to comment
Yeah.
or whatever. But I think giving them some type of here's the percentages that will be applied. You know, it's 50% or it's 60% cost, it's 40%, or whatever the
Right.
the group wants to decide. That's helpful for the team to know, because then if they're limited on time, they're going to focus on certain things, or they'll emphasize certain things. So
Yep.
just my 2 cents, but I'm glad to help weigh in on it.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
yeah. And again, it's like, happy to kind of give you, this, and then we can talk about it so that we can, give you the direction to say, we generally want to be qualifications based. However, we want to also include a portion of it that's fee based too, and the
Mhm.
weighted average is a good way of doing that. My biggest questions, as far as the scope goes, who's going to do a survey and who's responsible for that? And are you going to require a survey by a by a land surveyor? Because
Yeah, I
that's,
mean, all we have to work off of right now is the A&R plan that they drew up for the front lots, but it's not any great level of detail for the piece we now
Right.
have.
the good news, it's an easy site to survey. But so a lot of times, and again, you're going to keep hearing me say this, typically the owner provides the survey. So that would be a separate RFP. You can take that scope and put it into this RFP too, and have them, hire a surveyor to do it, but that, depending upon what you do for the scope of the survey, that could be $10,000 to $20,000. So that's, I mean, how many acres is it?
17, I think.
Yeah, but you may not have to do like a topo on all 17 acres. Because
So I did have one conversation with Art about wetland delineation.
Yep.
And he's willing to work with us on that. But I mean, that isn't everything you need for a survey.
no, but having that done actually really helps, a lot actually. Because then if you hire a surveyor, they don't have to survey the wetlands, they survey up to the flags, so you still, so you have recent plans, by a survey that defines the property line, so that's great.
Yeah.
And so, so it's not like you're starting from scratch, but again, it'll, there's a cost to that. And you can either put that in the RFP, which means then the landscape architect would have to hire as a sub, a land surveyor, which is done too. I mean, that's fine. But again, you would need a scope for that, survey. And the easiest way to do that is just take a GIS or an assessor's map to say, this is the areas you have to survey. Because what you want to do is make sure there's enough, but you don't want to like have them survey in the middle of the wetlands because no one's going to be doing anything there.
Okay.
So that was one question. The other big question, there's other things that, wording and stuff that we could go through, but the other big question is about, perform any necessary preliminary environmental soil groundwater testing in conjunction with the subsurface boring activities beyond the already completed. Okay. I can tell you, as a company, we are not LSPs. We exclude all of that work. And I can tell you most LAs would exclude that work. I mean, that has to be done by a licensed site professional. So, I guess the question is we had some preliminary testing done, correct?
Mhm.
And so I forget what the report, I forget the details of the report. So the question is, do they really need to do additional? And that's actually an LSP that has to do it, and LA can't do that.
Okay.
So that's that part of it. And then you also have in here, provide subsurface exploratory soil borings on site to confirm subsurface conditions and provide design data for foundations. What kind of foundations are you going to have? Yeah, maybe a pavilion.
Right.
Okay, I don't think you need to do soil exploration for that.
Okay.
You know,
So as I recall from when we discussed this, when we were accepting the property, I think the
Yep.
issue out there was lead. And I'm pretty sure that we had talked about in specific areas, putting in, making sure that it was a boardwalk in those designated areas to make sure that no one was being exposed to that particular soil. And so we probably don't want to include any subsurface stuff because we potentially could find the same thing found before. Just a recommendation from having done stuff like that previously.
yeah, I mean, there's already been some work done.
Yeah.
And based on what because this is a passive recreation, you're not going to be going in there, you know, tell me if I'm wrong, Leah, but you're not going to be going in there and moving dirt around. You know,
Correct.
you
For
just
the most part, yeah.
Right.
Unless, you know, a pavilion type thing is to happen. But other than that, we're talking about, you know, yeah, not a lot of earthwork.
right.
So if we go in there and find a problem, then we have a problem that we have to deal with.
Okay.
So
I get
Am
it.
I-
yeah.
But if part of the scope is to build a boardwalk, you're going to need to put footings in. Do we need to tell them to classify the soil or do anything like that? Or are we just simply going to
Everything's going
say,
to stay on. And then with the borings, well, excuse me, with the boardwalk, you can simply do helical piles, or there's other systems that you're not out there digging
Yeah.
for like
we used a product called Diamond Pier at a project up in Boylston, and the Diamond Pier is like a precast block where they actually drive spikes down, and
yeah.
maybe an option that's non-invasive. I again, it's probably cheapest to do like a sonotube or something, but
Actually,
Yeah.
it's not. Actually, the sonotube's not the cheapest anymore. A helical pile's the cheapest. They did my additions on a helical pile, this little kind of tractor type of thing, stand behind. They come in and it's just a big auger, and they go down till they hit a certain.
screw it in.
It's just a big screw, and they screw it in. And from a structural standpoint, I was much happier with that than some sort of sonotube. But again, they're actually much more efficient. And then when you get to a boardwalk, and this is where the LA makes their money, is they should have experience with different type of floating boardwalks and different types of where you can actually build one, where you go out and do little helical piles and you build it as you do them. So, but we're not going through like wetlands. So I would leave it up to the designer to figure out what system is least invasive.
Agreed.
Yeah. So those were kind of my big kind of ticket items about making sure everyone understands. And then as part of this package, and I think you mentioned this, you'll have all of the soil information available for them to review before they do their proposal. So you mentioned that in there.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's kind of, okay. So you do have in here, drawings shall be prepared in accordance with Massachusetts General Law. Chapter 149 shall include drawings and specifications. That was one of my questions. So when you do specifications, right? So there's generally three parts there's many parts, but big picture, this tends to be three parts in a specification. There's division 0. Okay, that's the upfront part of the spec, and it sets your contracts and how you're going to hire someone. Okay, like we don't do division 0 very often. The town may have standard division 0 that they've used on other projects. Division 1 sets up all the requirements for submittals and everything else. That's a little bit more common. And then you have your design specs. Those are the ones all the designers do. Like I'll do a design spec for drainage. I'll do one for sewer. I'll do one for roadways. And that gives all the specifications, gives all the choices they have. It gives them what they have to meet. Like you're doing a parking lot, you're going to do pavement. So the easiest thing to do is you got to meet MassDOT spec And I mean, it's really straightforward. It's done all the time. It's not a heavy lift, but your division 0, because it gets into contracts, you might want to just think about who's going to be responsible for doing that. Now, again, you're talking, we got a total of 50 for the design, which I think is probably almost everything you need. And then you're probably talking, I don't know, a few $100,000 to do the work. And so, basically, the division 0 would set the type of contract, and all the contract language. So that would be, and I'm sure the town, I know DPW and other town departments do this all the time. And like they probably use MassDOT and stuff like that, but it's not something that doesn't exist someplace in the town. And we do not need to reinvent the wheel in that. So,
Okay.
but again, the way you have this written, I'm just giving you background because, I would say in here, because it talks about include drawing specification, that's based on chapter 149. I'd actually have to look it up. You may just want to say specifications, including division 0 and division 1. Those are the type of little things. And again, it's so you get apples to apples. Now, this is not a huge project, so you don't want to create requirements so onerous that it impacts the price. But you want to make sure there's sufficient information in it to make sure that you get apples to apples in the proposals you get, but also to make sure it gets built correctly. Yeah, I mean, that's why you do the specifications. There's a submittal process and all that kind of good stuff. So, but anyways, that's kind of my overview of it. I mean, I have I have more questions and stuff. And I can send this to you.
Okay.
And then like you have in here about the designer, and again, it's trying to going through and probably using the word consultant instead of designer. I mean, there's some wording there that's just can get cleaned up really easily. Shall assist in distributing the bidding documents. Having been involved in this previously before a lot of the electronic stuff, it's a pain in the butt. And you have to have all these, used to have all these big rolls of plans so people can come pick them up. Currently, the probably most common thing is you pick a printing company like Acme in Worcester or something, and you can either have, and they'll charge for paper copies, but they'll also download things. And so there's ways to do it now where it's taken off of the responsibility of the consultant in the sense that it's all done electronically, or you can go pick up, plans, and then you don't have to, like, your first question, you put this out to bid, right? You put out the RFP, it's out to, people are going to do proposals. And when you get, and then you've got everything constructed and you're putting it out to bid, and all the bidders want stuff, that means they have to show up to the town hall, they have to do it. Have you been involved in any of the bidding things that people come in and pick up plans?
No.
All right, much easier ways to do it nowadays. And
Okay.
it's just done through there's still enough local printers around and people that have adapted that you can do it electronically and stuff. So
Okay.
I know, Jonathan, you must run into that all the time.
So Project Dog, I'm pretty sure has a functionality that you can link Project Dog, because I saw that up in the upper section, with a local print shop. So if you have information that you're trying to delegate out to people, then they can go to Project Dog and order something. But I deal in PDFs and TIFFs and DWG files all day long. I haven't printed a set of drawings in like 5 or 6 years. It just,
The only time we
I think
print,
just
the
for
only
reviews, certain things, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's a rarity now because you can mark it up on a PDF or whatever.
Yeah.
So
our printing is basically for permitting.
probably the only thing. Yeah, exactly.
Everything else, when we deal with contractors, it's I have no problem giving CAD files to contractors, because if they find something, 99% of them will tell us. And it's just another way. To me, the number of eyes on a set of plans is a good thing. The more you have, the more things people catch, and it's better to work with people. That's my, So what's the best way for me to help you or for the commission to help you get this a little bit more tightened up? And there's certain things a town should have, but there's also resources I can use to get you maybe an example of how you write certain scope items to make sure that, it's like tell them how many meetings they should have, tell
So
them.
that was one of the things that we were wondering about, because we looked at this, which is what was put out for the super park, and then we looked at the winning bid, and it got very specific about, number of public outreach meetings.
Yep.
That they would be present at town meeting, and it got very specific. And so
Right.
I was wondering, if you want people to get that specific, shouldn't it have been in what went out in the first place? So I noticed that we should probably build those things into here.
Right. And again, what you can do is give them a minimum. And if they
Okay.
feel like they need to do more, then they need to say why they're doing it, say,
Okay.
you're like a big thing is during CA, like how often does someone have to be there? You've got in here, do periodic visits. Well, that's pretty typical, but you may want to add, how long do you probably put it on them to figure out a construction schedule. And then when it goes out to bid, you give people kind of a general idea of the construction schedule. And then if the construction schedule is 6 months, it's from early spring to fall, right? Just picking a time, 6 months. And then, for the LA, you've got here doing weekly meetings. Is that on site or is that, virtual? Because I can tell you right now, once you get to CA, it's all about meetings and site visits. That's the cost. And so it makes a big difference in the fee is what the expectations are. And then,
Okay.
the question is, even though this is a smaller project, and maybe it only takes 2 months, I don't know, on the construction side, but if you don't have someone out there all the time, you have to kind of keep an eye on who's going to do that. Now you're going to delegate that to the designer. Is there someone in town that's going to be the project manager? That's not quite what's in here. You don't need to put all that information, but you need to think about it. Who's the one that's going to be going out there and stopping by periodically 3 or 4 times a week just to see that they're on site. That type of stuff. And you just want to set it up so if the expectation is the landscape architect or the consultant to do that, then you need to understand there's going to be a cost associated with that.
Mhm.
So
Right.
So if you think of Andy Deschaines on the DPW project and the library, he was whatever the town's
Yeah. OPM. Yeah.
clerk of the works. So is a person like Andy going to stop by and monitor and kind of track that contractor, or who's going to Sandy's point, who's going to do it?
Right.
Because again,
Yeah.
it's a smaller project,
Right.
so it might not warrant that type of oversight, but you still need some type of oversight. So
Right. That's a question we have for the TA's office because we no longer have Andy. So.
yeah, I know.
Okay.
I used to work with Andy a long time ago.
Yeah. So, and that's the type of stuff where, having someone who knows construction sites and construction they can go by and go, my God, they keep a really neat site. They're doing a really good job, or go, this guy's all over the place. He's moved the same pile 12 times. There's efficient ways of doing it, professional ways of doing it. And then there's kind of, things that you have to watch out for. And you're not going to, and again, this is not a huge project. So you don't want to create so much control that it costs you, it throws the cost way out. But you still need oversight. It's just a matter of how much that is and so forth.
Okay. So to answer your question from earlier, if you can send me this marked up version that you have, and you can send me like another sample, like you talked about,
Okay.
to see sample language, those would be the next steps. And then my question back to you guys is, then do you want this to return to you at another meeting, or where do you guys want to go from here?
I think if you just send this out, I mean, I just looked at it earlier today. So I took some time and looked through it and stuff. So, I think to make it easier, if you send it out, you put it on us to review it. And then we can just send it back to you. And then
Okay.
it becomes more just, what goes on, with the town and so forth. The other thing that I'll ask is with the CFP to see if they have any standards for how they do, if they have any guidance on that too. Or requirements, gonna make sure we meet whatever requirements CFP has to. Um, I should say CPA for, but anyways,
Yeah, I mean, a draft has to go to them too.
Yep,
I
yep.
just didn't feel like we were anywhere near ready for that.
yeah, no, I mean, to be honest, this is great because you gotta start someplace. And so, and I know that you used it off of another project, but you gotta start someplace and then we can get assessed and we can help you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
I
right,
will-
so,
I will save this and make sure I send it to you.
okay. And Jonathan, if you have any marking up you want to do, feel free to send that over as well.
Yeah, I'll take a look through it. My experience is more on the construction side, but I can at least lend a set of eyes. My markups might not be as detailed as what Sandy's done with some of this, but I'll put a set of eyes on it in more detail. I looked at it quickly. I didn't go full detail.
Yeah. So Jonathan, question for you, because obviously they're requesting a cost estimator. Do you think they need to go hire a cost estimator, or could they do it in-house? I mean,
With
right now,
the
cost
LA
estimate.
firm,
Yeah,
I mean, I,
we always sub it out because we have a couple relationship with different cost estimators because we don't have a clue. Everything is changing so much right now.
yeah.
I mean, to be honest, they don't have a clue either right now. But that's
Unfortunately, a lot of cost estimating. So the CMs that are building a lot of this stuff, or the
Yep.
GCs, they might have a better clue of what this is worth, which is why I have, not specifically with this, but it's really difficult to predict cost on projects that we're working on because of the market.
Yep.
I don't know if it's got a lot of value to have a third party estimator come in to price it up to compare it to the budget that the LA provides, or that to compare it to the potential GC budget. If there's something along those lines that I can help provide insights to, then I'm glad to help by doing that as part of whatever. But I don't. If you go and you hire a Vermillions or something, some cost estimation firm, they're going to put together a pretty generic budget, and
right.
it may not, and not trashing any firm whatsoever. I'm simply saying that it may not be specifically accurate because of all the craziness in the market.
Right.
So
yeah, 5 years ago, I stand by all the estimates we got, and because they were good. Right now, I agree with you. It's tough, and maybe let the LA take a shot at it. And again, it's a way of controlling costs, because when you're doing a project, you want to avoid sub-consultants because that's where you start adding a lot of cost.
Yeah, 5 or 10 grand for an estimating firm is just, I don't
Doesn't
think
make
it's
sense.
worth it.
Okay.
Not in this scenario. Again, on the DPW, on the library, I'm sure they had third party cost consultants and whatever because of the size of the projects. But like to your point, Sandy, if this is $50,000 worth of design and $200,000 or $300,000 worth of cost, or whatever it might end up at, why spend another 10 to
figure
what I'm
out.
saying? Yeah, I think, again, I can lend a hand with whatever's I'm allowed to, or my firm probably would not be interested in doing this project. So
Right.
again, it doesn't fit what we're doing. So I could easily lend a hand, and it wouldn't be a conflict of interest or anything. So.
Right. And again, and I agree. I agree with that. And I have to keep telling myself that the size of this project, the type of things that you're doing, it does all cost money. It does, you know, it does need to be designed, but it's not, I need to understand, we don't need to put so many controls on it like it's a big project, because it's not.
Yeah.
And we need to always, for me anyways, check myself that we're not building a $30 million school. It's a few
Yeah,
$100,000 passive recreation area. And-
couple of months and it will be done.
Yep.
Once it
And to be
starts.
honest, it's the local contractors who know how much it would cost anyways.
Yeah.
It's the guys doing these size projects. It's a landscape, you know, construction firm, not just like a landscaper, but a landscape construction firm that would have the best handle on what these costs are. So,
Yeah, we just did a similar pre-con exercise up in Boylston that unfortunately went the direction of going directly to a landscape firm that took it soup to nuts instead of working with the GC like we wanted. But there's plenty of those contractors in this area that
Yep.
would probably be interested, between the site contractors that could hire a landscaper.
Yep.
And then, you know, the true landscape, the larger landscapers could do this as well.
so, yeah, that's kind of what I had. So, and again, it's, Leah, please, I know sometimes I'm a bottleneck. Just keep bugging me. I never take offense on the emails I
Okay.
get, because yeah, you know,
So, were you okay with, I think I only emailed you, Sandy, about the Conway School.
Yep.
Are you okay with abandoning that idea and just staying focused on this here, or
I
did
think
you have
it's,
any more
No,
insight into that?
yeah, I mean, I know the 10,000 and because it's a student type of thing. And if you're really looking to push us around, I'd stick with the LA. I mean, I thought it would be a nice way to kind of save some money, but I don't think you're going to get what you need through that.
Okay,
So, yeah, I agree with you on that one.
okay. All right. I know my next steps here, and then I will send the next draft around to you guys after that.
All right. And I will send you this right now.
Okay. You are still sharing your screen.
I know that. I'm proving that I'm
Okay.
sending it to you, you know. There we go. I'm not going to
Thank
put any
you.
words in here. Make sure it's off my plate.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's just typical crap. Okay.
All right. I have, does anyone have anything else on that, or are we on to our last item?
All
All
set.
right. So our last item, a few meetings ago, we were chatting about projects here and there that we have accomplished on our conservation lands. And Sandy, you had requested that I put a list together just to show all in one place, all the things that we have done for our open space. So as a fun little exercise, I put this together for you guys. It's since 2015, because that's when I started. So those are the projects that I am aware of that have
Gotcha.
occurred. So I don't know if you guys have questions or you want me to explain any of them. But I did put the list together for you.
No, that's great, because I mean, I just remember certain things, and, you know, like doing everything simple of like doing a permit for someone to do something on an open space, you know, that's something that
Yeah.
never existed. And now there's a process there. And I think all those type of things are really good. The whole thing with the mowing on, you know, having all the kind of issues with trying to find someone to mow, and now having a mower or a brush hog or whatever we got, and have DPW do it. That's really cool. But yeah, so that's really good. And I thought it would be good for everyone to see it. And yeah, there's some really good things that have been done over the last 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, it's it's good to see it all in one place, even for myself.
Yep. No, it is, it's just like, yeah, I mean, it's, as simple as going through and cleaning up the stormwater regs, and making sure it aligns with the MS4. I mean, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's not like earth shattering, but it's all important stuff to do and stuff.
Yeah.
So
So I guess I'll just point out some of the highlights. We did work on our webpage. We don't have trail maps just yet. That is upcoming, but we did go through and make a subpage for every property we have. So we have photos and information on where people can park and whether or not there are trails, whether or not they can bring a canoe. So we did try to inventory what really is under the care of the commission and have that for public information. You guys might remember at a workshop, we revamped the conservation land use policies. So that's all been updated. We've updated the signs at all our properties. So anything that does have a trail network has a big sign roadside so that people know where they're going. And then all the properties, regardless of trails or not, have our rules posted at them. So there's at least something there showing that it's open space.
Leah, do we have a timeline on the trail maps?
We just got GIS installed on my computer and Jan's computer.
Okay.
Jan has GIS knowledge, so I'm hoping to kickstart that spring and summer this year, get out and start mapping things. We do have the data from the intern we had a few years ago, but I think I've mentioned this to you guys before. He mapped like literally anywhere you could walk. So we can't just publish that for the public because like certain trails are leading people onto private property.
Right.
So we need to clean that data up before we're putting out anything official, because that would be a lot of liability for the town.
Okay. I just saw the rec department released their summer programs today, and it looks like they're bringing back some of the community, like Big Truck Day. They're doing the paddle nights. So I know that we had talked about the bird study and some other things but those might be good opportunities for us to see if we can set up a little table and just get a little community involvement or community education on some of the things we're doing. And I can work with Jan on that. I know that's something that with the bird thing particularly, but I'd be willing to help out with that if we still wanted to do some activities like that to kind of increase community awareness.
Okay, yeah, I will talk to her, and we can get something going for that. What kind of, is that spring or summer activities for rec? So I have a rough idea.
The big truck days at the Millbury Street School, that's usually late spring, and then they do paddle nights, with the canoeing and kayaking, and those are throughout the summer in the evenings, but those are just good times with target audiences kind of that we're looking for. I know the Big Truck Day gets a ton of families at it. So if we wanted to do like some of the bird watching stuff, have some stuff for kids to kind of that they could do, give them something to do going into the summer.
Okay. And speaking of canoe and kayak and stuff like that, Jan is currently looking into getting the signs that you guys might have seen at boat ramps that talk about, make sure you clean off your boat because invasives will hitch a ride with you. She's also looking into the PVC receptacles that you'll see at fishing locations for people to put their fishing line in there instead of being in the water or snagged in the trees. So that's one of our upcoming pieces. You guys probably already know we have the trail camera. We have a web page going now for that, where we're posting photos, and we have our own YouTube channel for the videos. So that's on our website too. Let's see what else. We talked about the mowing. We talked about Hennessy. We have a list here of all the open space we've acquired since 2015. So that's, I think that amounted to, when I added it up, it was around 50 acres. Yeah, and then I have our upcoming projects at the bottom, trail mapping, the boat stuff we just talked about. We have a numbered loop trail. If any of you have been to Merriam Road Conservation Area, there was a numbered loop trail established many years ago. The signs are falling down. Nobody knows what they actually correspond to, and I would really like to revamp that, maybe with some help from Helen, if she has any background knowledge of that, because we do have a nice numbered loop trail at Hassanemesset Woods, and I'd love to bring this one up to be as modern as that one is. I think there might be QR codes on that one. I can't remember.
Yeah, that's cool.
But that's all I have.
Has anything else happened as far as the whole agricultural proposition of growing flowers?
So I took a look at the CR for Pell Farm.
Yep.
Let me see if I can find that while I have you guys. So I found a paragraph in there that I sent to town council. I don't have an answer yet, but it's a paragraph that had me a little concerned that maybe it just is not a possibility for this property, because the wording talked about, it was like allowing the Christmas tree farm to do its thing till it's done. And then it kind of sounded like no more after that.
Okay.
Let me try to find that real quick. Okay, I think I found it. So this is in the CR, number 10, which is talking about, this is the non-prohibited activities. So the activities, let me just make sure I'm in the right section. Yeah, reserved rights, so exceptions to the prohibited activities. But then it talks about the use of the existing agricultural fields under the terms of the 10-year lease between the town and the Pells. A copy of the lease is attached. At such time that the lease expires in 2019, the area currently in Christmas tree production will be allowed to return completely to an open early successional condition and maintained as open meadow. So I sent that language to town council to ask what that means in light of this residents' question.
And I'm not going to guess on interpreting
Yeah.
those legalese. Yep.
Yep. So that's the hang up at the moment.
Okay.
Waiting to hear back from her.
Fair enough. It is what it is. And yeah, so we'll see what happens once we go to the next step.
Yep. I'll keep you posted.
Okay. Sounds good. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Anyone else have anything?
Just yawning. Been yawning so much over here, and it's not a result of the meeting, it's a result of tiredness. So
Yep.
nothing else for me.
Okay. Then we only need one more thing.
I will make a motion to close the meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Jonathan,
Yes.
Alicia,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
and I'm also a yes.